Lesson 9 of Literary Devices. Remember, literary devices are the terms that we need to know and understand when we discuss and analyze literature. So let's look at the lessons that we've already covered. We started out with plot, and we talked about the 5 parts of an American plot structure. We have exposition, rising action, climax, falling action, and resolution. Next, we discussed conflict, both internal and external conflict, and we looked at the different types of external conflict: person versus person or group, person versus nature or animal, person versus condition or thing. Our third lesson involved looking at the timing of the story, the sequence and chronological order of a story, flash forwards, flashbacks, and foreshadowing. Then our fourth lesson covered the feeling of the story, and we talked about the setting, the atmosphere, the mood, and the tone. We talked of the mood being made by the diction, the setting and atmosphere of the story, and figures of speech that the author uses. Our fifth lesson focused on characterization, and we discussed how an author creates a character within a story through direct characterization and indirect characterization. We looked at character labels, being the protagonist, the antagonist, and supporting characters. We talked about the types of characters: flat, round, dynamic, and static. And then we talked about some special terms related to characterization, being motivation and dialogue. Our sixth lesson was on point of view, and we talked about the different points of view our narrator or the teller of the story can have. We talked about the omniscient point of view. We talked about first person point of view and how that first person point of view could be unreliable. And we talked about third person limited point of view. Our special terms in relation to point of view were diction, tone, and voice. Then lesson 7, we looked at theme. We looked at the subject of a piece of literature versus the theme of a piece of literature. We talked about how themes were made up of generalizations or different observations made throughout the story that are combined together to make a generalization, which usually would draw out the theme of a work of literature. We talked about the different genres, different types of literature: short stories, poetry, novels, biographies, autobiographies, nonfiction, several different genres of literature. Then we talked about universal themes, which are themes that could come through regardless of nationality, of culture, of time period. Our last lesson that we discussed was lesson 8, and we looked at last week. We talked about irony, ambiguity, and satire. Irony is the difference between what we expect or what seems suitable and what actually happens. And there's 3 different kinds of irony. There's verbal irony, situational irony, and dramatic irony. Then we talked about ambiguity, which is a quality that allows something to be interpreted in several different or conflicting ways. And we discussed satire, which is a type of writing that ridicules something in order to reveal a weakness. Now this week we're going to look at symbolism. And symbolism is an object, a person, an animal, or an event that stands for something more than itself. For example, think of the blind woman holding up a scale, and she is often used to symbolize justice. She's supposed to be fair in weighing the fate of the accused. We often see this symbol in many of our courtrooms today. Symbols are often visual. A symbol usually appears several times in a text. And a symbol is a type of figurative language. Like a metaphor, a symbol is identified with something that is very different but shares the same qualities. A public symbol is a symbol that has become widely recognized. For example, the bald eagle symbolizes the United States. The olive branch symbolizes peace. If I said to you, what would be the symbol of an octagon? Of course, you would relate that to a stop sign. So that's a public symbol. Then symbols can often be invented. An invented symbol is created within a work of literature by the writer and usually stands for something that is abstract, such as evil, innocence, or love. The meaning of an invented symbol must be interpreted by the reader. So in this lesson, we've looked at a symbol, which is an object, a person, an animal, or an event that stands for something beyond itself. Symbols are often visual. They appear several times in a text. Symbols are a type of figurative language. Symbols can be public, and symbols can be invented. So go ahead and fill out the response for these notes and bring any questions you may have about symbols to class.